opposition on the part of people who said, let bygones be bygones. Let sleeping dogs, no matter how awful, lie. The problem was that the English-speaking colonists in America thought they should bond with their fellow Englishmen in England, and they should unite against what they considered the competition from peoples from Asia and Africa, and they thought that doing this bonding, they would have to forget about the enmity they once had toward England. And then, in 1880, the Society of Old Brooklynites was born. At the time, you had to be 40 or 50 years resident in Brooklyn to be a member. And they took up the subject of the monument to be built over the mausoleum. And 8 years later, they sent a petition to Congress. It contained the names of 8,000 of the prisoners that were recorded as being on the Jersey, one of the most notorious of the prison ships. Supposedly, according to accounts, the petition they gave was 3 miles long. How this could be, I don't know, but that's what it said. And they sent this list of the prisoners to every single Congress. It got to a certain point of completion, but they needed help, and they got it from the Daughters of the American Revolution, which was a national organization and could produce far more input from a lobbying point of view. But even they couldn't swing the money from Congress to build this monument. But finally, they had some enterprising people. Oh, and many other organizations joined it, and they started an association, the Prison Ship Martyrs Association of the United States, which was an omnibus organization of not only the DAR and the Society of Old Brooklynites, but also a half a dozen other organizations joined, mostly like Sons of the Revolution. And then, from their point of view, a very fortuitous situation developed when they discovered near the Navy Yard the remains of 100 different prisoners that had been buried there. And using this as a publicity wedge, they put so much pressure on Congress that 2 years later, Congress donated $100,000 to help fund this monument on the condition that the local people and the DAR and the Society of Old Brooklynites raised the other 100,000, which they did without too much trouble. And we all know what happened then. We celebrated last year the 100th anniversary of the unveiling of the monument. And they took this money and they hired Stanford White to design the memorial, which you see in back. And so it seemed, and then they had President-elect William Howard Taft, who surprisingly, for his sort of gentle manner, really lit in his speech, which he gave 101 years ago on the spot. He lit into the British, and he said it's true that although a lot of people think that the British deliberately tried to kill the prisoners, something that many people believe, he said, I don't think that's true, but in the long run, what they did had the same effect. And anyway, after that fanfare, which was widely reported in the press, everything deteriorated as far as the popularity of this monument. What had happened was the desire to become affiliated with the other English-speaking country, England, was so great that they started to deny what the prisoners had written about what took place there. They said that these prisoners had exaggerated. Ethan Allen, who spent time in prison and wrote some of the horrible things there, they more or less called him a liar. There was one man named Van Dyne who made a career out of saying that everything bad said about the British was wrong. He claimed to have researched it thoroughly. And he gave a speech to that effect in Parliament, no less. And then by 1914, when England got in war with Germany and we helped them, by that time the bond with England had become so great that everyone forgot about the Martyrs here. And then, not until the end of the century, until very recent years, when you have our elected officials in the council and in the Senate or in the House of Representatives, raise money, the Parks Department helped, and last year you saw the light at the top lit for the first time in about 50, 60 years. And this year we're starting out in fine fashion. Just in the last week or so, Congress funded $300,000 more to fix up this area. And then a book came out last year, which I recommend to anyone interested in the prison martyrs. The book is Forgotten Patriots by Professor Edwin, the name Burroughs of Brooklyn College, who wrote, as far as I know, the only definitive book about the prisoners, not only here, but the prisoners in other prisons in Manhattan and in other areas. It's a marvelous book, and it goes into detail. I would say half of the book is devoted to the prison martyrs. And before we get too complacent, however, before we rest on our laurels, I think we have a job to do. Professor Burroughs called it Forgotten Patriots. So I don't think the job is to remember, but the job is to communicate to the world about New York and Brooklyn's role in the revolution. When you think of the revolution, you think of the big-wig founders in Philadelphia who are drafting the Constitution. We think of the rebel hotheads in Massachusetts that ignited the revolution. But no one thinks of Brooklyn and New York. And Brooklyn, for the first battle of the war and the biggest battle involving the most troops, all took place here, and nobody knows it. I venture to say there are thousands of people within a mile of here don't know what this statue is. And I mentioned it all over the country. School children are not taught anything. So this is a challenge we have. Just as we had the challenge to build the monument in the first place, we have the challenge to spread the word. And this is possible. There have been several things proposed, that we make this a military cemetery, that we have honor guards on the weekend. And this is something that we can do, particularly now the technology of the media is great. And so I look forward to working on this myself, and I hope all of us do, that we spread the word that these prison martyrs have not died in vain.